Welcome to episode 158 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nanny. The Tush Push lives on. With me today is our normal co-host, Jason Sada.
Hey, Tom, what's going on?
Jason, how are you? And we got Jimmy the Chalk.
I think the tush push might be good till episode 200 this point, I guess. So we'll see.
Another year of Tush Push and another off
210, episode 210, probably 52 plus 158. Right?
Maybe, yeah.
Tonight's episode, we're going to run through the recap of both the Preakness and the PGA Championship. And we'll do a quick, we'll get probably a nice conversation with the Phillies update, some big news. They're playing well. Again, episode 158 is brought to you by Jim Vanina's PGA tried the rest. Now I'll try the best. All right, let's do it. Let's move to the Preakness. Quick recap. On this podcast, no surprise, we all three of us gave out the winner, who was the favorite and the Kentucky Derby favorite in journalism. Probably didn't end up how we thought it was going to end up. But nonetheless, we had it. Chalky, I don't want to say Chalky said you might even get even money. So I was shocked at the price.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I was very shocked at the price.
The only reason I even went there is because I thought you could argue Epicenter was laying over the field more, and Epicenter was maybe the best in the Derby, but got caught in a thing. And he was 6-5. So depending on betting, that's why I thought journalism might be even money. But I was still surprised that it did end up that way when you looked at the field.
Yeah, I mean, probably your best way to make money. The exact that came home journalism over was Gosler.
Gosler tonight, yeah.
Was paid like $16 for a dollar. And the try rounded out with Sandman, who was a logical third. We said it here. And that was $73 for a dollar, which actually wasn't too bad, but you start doing combinations, it's a little tricky. So even money on journalism. I won't get into the race. I'll let Chalky and Jason kind of talk about that, because it was a very, very impressive win for journalism. Probably haven't seen that since the Fleet Alex and Scrappy T race, where they almost go down and recover and win. Jason?
Yeah, it was a really exciting race. I kind of regret that I did not have Gosker second in my bet on the podcast, but we did that early in the week. Would we do that Tuesday night?
Tuesday, yeah.
As the week went on, I started to kind of think like he's a logical horse to kind of
And you start looking at some of the horses like goal oriented. It was like, all right. I mean, why all of a sudden, because it's bad?
Yeah.
Like it was almost like you needed somebody that a face you haven't seen.
Those two horses, the Goliath and the Asmussen horse, were way over bet. I mean, they weren't huge in the morning line, but they.
Yeah. As the race got closer, they were big on their lays, especially the Asmussen horse was like second choice, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wound up hitting the exacta. I hit the try. Probably should have hit the super too, but
And who was fourth? Oh, goal
oriented. He's kind of not the typical horse we put forth, but you figure like we knew, like there was not one bet that I had that did not have journalism winning. So I should have been able to back into the super somehow, but I didn't. But anyway, it was a profitable day. As far as the race is concerned, I like Rispoli. He's a countryman for me and Tommy anyway. I think he's a good rider, good jock. And you guys could, give me your thoughts here, but is he more of a turf jock? And did he ride that horse more like a turf horse than a horse that should not be put in any trouble because he's just better than these horses and is going to win the race? And he got him in trouble.
Yeah, you could see he was like definitely trying to save ground more than he probably needed to, which is very turfy. And it was a race. I mean, he was having to use them a little bit, but it does. You go back to journalism's races, he kind of is that kind of horse. You got to stay engaged with them. But yeah, that's a race you see a lot of times. Maybe not the Preakness, but if you're watching this on a regular random Thursday, where you have a 3-5 horse who's the best horse, that jockey brings him to the outside. The one thing is,
just get him out.
Just don't get him in trouble, and he wins the race. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I kind of think, and that's the second time he's got him in trouble in a race like that. So you know, I don't know. I still think he's the best 3-year-old. I will still be. I hope he didn't get taxed, and that will affect him in the Belmont because I really want to bet him in the Belmont. I also want to bet Baeza. I want to. I'm going to tell you from now. I want to be against Sovereignty in the Belmont. And those are the two horses I want to use, and mostly journalism. Um, but I mean, other than that, Oscar ran out of his mind. I thought I thought he was just gone. Like once journalism got into trouble, I was like, I was pissed off, obviously. And Gosker was just what 5 or 6 lengths ahead. I was like, it's over. And then as soon as he started, like he changed leads. Once he got out of the trouble, like the horse has balls, right? Vespoli has balls, but the horse had balls. Like you could tell the horse got pissed off, and like he just kind of threw his shoulder into was it Sandman or no
Oh,
Gold
where you at it?
threw his shoulder into him and just went by, and I was like, he's gonna get second, shit. And he just started, he was making up ground. I was like, he's got a chance, and it was a really exciting race. I really have grown to really love that horse, especially after that race, because I love horses like that. That just like he wants to win, and he's got balls, and that's the kind of horse I like. Um, I mean, I don't know what else to say. It was an exciting race. I did well. I was happy.
Hey, Chalky, any observations? Anything to add?
I mean, exciting race for sure. And I was worried because he got out the gate fine, but then he got jostled a little bit. And I'm like, I wanted him closer. And then Rispoli was Tommy mentioned, I thought he was pushing him a little early. I'm like, does he have it? And then I'm like, well, even if he does have it, he doesn't have room to get through. And then he bolted his way through. And, my immediate thought was, well, that's on the Baffert horse. That's on Pratt. And I've seen enough people online criticize either one to say that it's probably not completely, clear that any one of them was more at fault than the other. But I do fault Rispoli for being in that position because, like you said, you look at that last. I don't even know if it was the last eighth of a mile when he just put that spurt on to go by. He was by far the best horse. So all you do is don't get the horse in trouble. Don't have
Yeah.
if you have to go wide, but you can make one continuous run, that's the best thing you can do. It's forget about saving ground because he saved ground, but he didn't make one continuous. He wasn't going to his knees like Alex. He stopped as they were trying to get through and then had to start accelerating again. If he just wheels them out a little earlier, he's got a clear shot and he wins by 3 lengths, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
So to be able to stop and then restart and then kick it into another gear with that little room left in the race is just amazing. So, he was our Derby horse, the Preakness, but it's as impressive a race I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, a couple things real quick, and then we'll move on. I do blame Rispoli, but a part of it is like the one thing Rispoli didn't take into fact is he was trying to do that against Pratt, and Pratt is not stupid. Pratt knew exactly where journalism was, knew he was the horse trying to squeeze through a hole, and if you watch, he takes goal-oriented in to block journalism, which is the right thing to do if you're a jockey trying to win that race. No, not let the best horse get through that hole. So if it's not Pratt, if it's, one of those other, whoever was on American Promise, whoever, that jockey might not have enough sense to like block, take that hole up, and journalism gets through and knows problem. So yeah, it's journalism's Rispoli's fault, but he also tried to do it against probably the best or one of the best jockeys in the country right now.
And honestly, the Asmussen, what kind of saved them both in a sense is the Asmussen was backing up. The Asmussen got interfered, got the worst because he was pulled up right away. Now, part of that was because he was backing up and the jock knew he was done. Was Rosario on him? I forget. But if that horse was not backing up, you would have had all the right in the world to try to take one of those two down for interference. But the stewards made the right call because he wasn't winning the race. He wasn't getting a placing. No. But that's where they got kind of lucky with whoever was at fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this race made me look back at the Derby. On a dry track in the Derby, does journalism beat Sovereignty?
I think so.
The other thing is journalism does seem to need a target, right? He saw that target in front of him and accelerated. And in the Derby, he accelerated until he got on the lead, and that's when he started to just kind of, run the race, and that's when Savardy caught him.
Yeah.
And then the last thing was the most impressive thing for me is after he finally gets through the hole, Sandman is like by him, who's a dead closer.
Yeah, he
And
left himself.
journalism still was able to blow
Yeah.
by him. With
Yeah.
how often do you see a horse that's his run style is to close, pass, and then get repassed by? That's what was like insane.
Sandman was making his run.
So yeah, you could say
Yeah.
maybe Gosler was backing up a little bit. But yeah, well, if Gosler's backing up, then Sandman should have won the race.
Yeah.
Journalism outran him.
Yeah.
He didn't
I
get
just,
Oscar.
I just see this horse as like real quiet. You finish second, or not real quiet. Who finished? Well, Fleet Alex finished third, then first and first. Who finished second? There's another horse I'm thinking of that got second in the Derby, but then won the Preakness and the Belmont.
Second in the Derby, I'd have to think about. Point Given didn't finish second in the Derby. He was
Point Given is what I'm thinking of. He didn't get second in the Derby.
Point Given finished fourth, if I want to say, right?
That's who I was thinking of. Point Given. But one interesting fact, because when I win, it's rare, so I'm happy. I went back and I've only bet 21 Preaknesses, right? The first one I bet was a Fleet Alex, which I hit. I've hit 8 out of 21 Preaknesses. Not bad.
These tend to be a little on the chalkier side. Maybe.
They're a little on the chalkier side, but
A win is a win.
a win's a win.
Yeah. But yeah, it was all in all, it turned out to be the way it ended, like a good race. So it was fun and it sets up
Yeah.
for the Belmont. All right, let's move on. PGA Championship Recap won by Scottie Scheffler. I don't know what to say. I mean, nobody really played that well, but then every time Scottie needed to, I don't know. I can't even point to one shot he made that was like incredible. He just outlasted everybody and pulled away in the end. He had a slew of guys behind him. Rahm was right there in contention, and he just completely collapsed in the last 3 holes. But what can you say? Scheffler is. We said it. I mean, if he starts putting, which he made a lot of nice putts on the PGA, he's going to be a tough guy to surpass. I gave out DeChambeau as my top pick, but I said there's only one other guy that can win, and it was Scheffler. So kind of hit the exact on that.
You had Homa too. You had Homa.
Yeah, Homa was up there for a little bit. Ryan Fox actually made a little noise. Wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
One thing we cannot say we're proud of, definitely our worst make the cut performance.
Yeah, I was kind of rooting against you, Chalky, because I wanted to say that we missed every cut, and if we played that parlay, that would have been like
that would have crushed. Yeah,
that would have paid like friggin' $4,000 probably. But
yeah, and another nice give out. I said Shane Lowry not to make the cut.
Yeah,
so that was kind of a sharp play.
Yeah,
but all in all, PGA was great as always. Course played. I mean, it played to what the over/under was. All right, it was 10 and a half. And what did he shoot? 11. So just barely over. But the next closest guy was 6 or 7.
Yeah, and I told I was texting a guy who used to work with a Comcast, he's in the league that we do, and he had Scheffler, and I texted him Saturday night. I was like, Scheffler's going to win by 5. So.
Yeah, I mean, and at the turn, Scheffler was finishing 9, and he was tied with Rahm at 9 under.
Yeah,
then he made a couple nice plays, and Rahm fell apart. But anything, Jason, on the recap?
It's just Scheffler is he's just. I mean, one thing I will say. I mean, we all had DeChambeau, and DeChambeau. Listen, DeChambeau played well. I mean, Tommy and I were getting upset with him when we were texting on Sunday, but the guy finished second. I mean, in a major. I mean, it's another top 3, top 5 for DeChambeau in a major. I mean, what could you do when you have a monster like Scheffler? I will say, the course played tough. Like Scheffler was 11 under going into Sunday, so he shot par, right? DeChambeau on Sunday, I think, was 1 under, right? Because wasn't he 5 under going into Sunday? I think he was 5 under.
Yeah, because he was 8 under with 2 or 3 to play, and then he went dropped to 5.
You and I were killing DeChambeau. DeChambeau played better than Scheffler did on Sunday. So it's just Scheffler's just so good. He's so consistent. I said I loved him to beat McIlroy because McIlroy is not consistent. Scheffler just is. Um, I mean, I already have started putting parlays in for Scheffler in the U.S. Open because the odds are horrendous. He's like what minus 310 or something like that, 325, something like that. Like you can't bet that. Or not minus, he's plus, but you can't bet that straight. So I just started doing my crazy parlays, just to have a Scheffler bet. But you know, it was a crazy tournament because the leaderboard was just outrageous going into, for the first 2 days, like that Vegas clown, like
I mean,
that
it kind of finished outrageous too, really. Besides DeChambeau, like Scheffler won, DeChambeau second. Who the guys tied with him were
English,
English,
Harris English,
Riley, right?
Davis Riley. Yep, yep, yep.
Did Vegas wound up finishing?
He was up there, but he didn't finish second. But yeah, I mean,
Pastone, JT Pastone or whatever was up
he
there.
was up there. Yeah. But, the cream rose to the top, right? I was saying I thought it was going to finish Scheffler, either DeChambeau, Rahm, or Rahm DeChambeau. Rahm, I don't know what he did, and that Green Mile was a monster. Like that Green Mile, that killed guys down the stretch. So, another interesting, exciting tournament. I did not profit, but you know, what are you gonna say? Scotty's unbelievable.
Chalky. I know we actually watched pretty much the bulk of the final round together.
Yeah, I mean, other than so the Connors making the cut and DeChambeau being a reasonable alternative, about the only things I got right on anything I players I gave last week because Xander made the cut but wasn't up there and all that. Um, so third major for Scottie, and he's now all three that he's won are the only three he's been the leader in going into the last day. So he's 3-0 holding the lead. So, and I think where we've seen some of these, even when he wasn't in the lead, some of these tournaments where he came up short, it was one of the first two rounds that he just kind of threw a clunker in. Last year, obviously, there was the whole arrest thing after the first day and it throws it off. So, whereas we've seen guys like Rory and Spieth, and even if you want to go way back, Greg Norman blow multiple leads on the last day in big tournaments. Scottie doesn't. And he hit 2 out of 7 fairways on the front 9. And he could have just fell apart. And because Rahm was tied with him and he wasn't hitting the driver. We find out afterwards that his driver was considered non-conforming before the tournament, like Rory's was during the tournament. So he had to switch that. But he never panicked. He kept it in and he, +3 on the front 9, -3 on the back 9, and everybody else fell apart and he was able to keep it together. And Rory got all the talk, and Rory still might be having the best year, but maybe the Masters was the culmination of a career, and it's a letdown now. And Scottie's performance plus good performances in the other tournaments have, solidified he's still the best player in the game, no matter if he doesn't have the laurels this year or not.
Yeah, I mean, Scheffler won. I know he was tied 9 under, and he pulled away, so you can argue he won it then. But he won the tournament on Saturday, where he played the last 5 holes or last 4 holes, 5 holes 4 under.
Yeah.
On Saturday to get the 3-shot lead going into Sunday. I mean, there was nobody on the course that was playing under par on the green, like you said, this 16, 17, and 18. So the fact he does Saturday ends his round that way. That to me, that's where the tournament was won.
I think going forward, the way to bet Scheffler in these majors is to do it live because
He was like -180 at one point.
yeah, and he doesn't usually start and like win wire to wire, right? So maybe after round 1, maybe you get plus 450 or 500 on him or something like that. You know what I mean? Instead of taking plus 300 before the tournament. I think at some point during the tournaments, you will get better odds than betting them before.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll US Open is a couple weeks. We will be there for the first round, so pretty exciting. So we'll see. We'll see how Scottie does. Anything else? We'll move on to the Phils. Okay, so Phils, lot has happened since the last podcast. So I know we were a little hard on them on last Tuesday for the podcast. Since then, they're 6-1. Kind of a motif of when we do our podcast to what they do afterwards. We also were kind of hard on Harper at times during the pod, and I think he's been on a tear since. So, kind of all we have to do is talk trash on them, and they do well. But the big news is Alvarado got suspended. He's done for the season, the playoffs. It's pretty much no more Jose. I don't know where do they go from here in regards to the bullpen, Jason?
Well, first, and again, like you can only beat who you play, but they have played the Little Sisters of the Poor and Marist in the last 2 series, right? So they better be 6-1 against the Pirates and the Rockies. But
They're actually 5-0 against those. The one loss was the doubleheader against the Cardinals, I guess.
Cardinals, that's true. That's a good point. All right, so bullpen wise, so I was thinking about this the other day. I don't think it's as dire as we think once you get to the playoffs, right? But I do think they need an arm, and we could toss around names, of who they should go after. But when you get to the playoffs, there's almost no doubt that Ranger Suarez is not going to be in the rotation in the playoffs. There's no doubt. So he's going to be in the bullpen. So right there, you're getting, I think, a high leverage arm for the bullpen right there. You also, there's a chance, and I don't know, probably not the best thing if this happens, but it could happen. Aaron Nola could also be in the bullpen by the playoffs, right? Because you figure at most you need 4 starters. So you're gonna have Wheeler, you're gonna have Luzardo, and going into any series with those 2 guys, right there, that's tough to beat. You probably have Sanchez as your 3. Who knows who becomes a 4? Does Andrew Painter become your 4th starter in the playoffs? Could happen, right? Because I'm hearing stuff. I'm hearing rumors that they don't want to take him. They don't want to make him a reliever. They want him to be a starter. They don't want to mess around with his routine or anything else. So where does that leave Aaron Nola? Does he become your closer? Does Ranger become your closer? I think they need to go get a closer, but I think those are high leverage arms that are going to be in the bullpen by the time the playoffs roll around. You're going to get Alvarado back before the playoffs, but he can't pitch in the playoffs. So even down the stretch, you'll have Alvarado. So I don't think it's as dire as it seems.
Okay. Chalky, anything there?
Yeah, if I didn't say it last week, I think I said the week before, is like, seems like when we get really negative on them, they come back and do something well. So that's been a good week, except for, Jimmy D's always been negative on Alvarado, and I guess he bore out there. I had texted it, but the Ranger to the bullpen thing, assuming he's on the team come playoff time, makes perfect sense. I wasn't really thinking Nola would be a good fit unless you were going to do a combined game. But I think, with the starting 5 you have, take Abel out, who wonderful start, but he's not up, and they sent him back down, right? So they're not expecting him to be here long term. You're not going to go 3 lefties and a righty. So you're not going to go Wheeler, Luzardo, Sanchez, Suarez, right? We'll see how he comes back from the injury. I'm okay with Nola being the 4 in a playoff series, because I think he's not worth what you pay him to be a 4, but in all things considered, he's a decent or very good 4 potentially. But maybe he's a 3-inning guy, and he's an opener for 3 innings, and then Suarez is 3 innings, or Walker, if you think he can still do that. I don't know. Like, if you think Nola hits that inning where he just blows up, then maybe you just limit his innings, give him 1 pass through the lineup and work the game that way, if that's what you're looking to do. Painter would have been obviously me to say, I was going to say put him in the bullpen. Now, I didn't read or hear what you said, Jason, where they really don't want to do that. To me, he would have been an easy arm to put in. I would much rather him go get a closer. We talked about the Orioles closer. He's really the only one on the market for a team that stinks that is maybe out there. We talked about Helsley. St. Louis is doing well. So there's no really good closer. Even Miller, like the Athletics, the City List Athletics are doing well, right? So
Yeah.
they're not going to make that trade right away, So, I mean, look, they are, as a team, they're best in the NL and they're second best in the league behind, of all teams, the Detroit Tigers right now. So they're finding a way to win. And, they're not a lot of, except for Sunday, the games weren't particularly close. And yet, Skeens had a good game, but I'm still not sold on Kerkering because he gets in trouble, it gets out of it.
No.
I would feel a lot better about the bullpen if he at least solidified himself as a seventh inning guy you could rely upon, but he's not there.
He's a problem. There's another name out there that's possible, Finnegan for the Nationals.
Yeah, I just thought of that. Right when you said there's another name, I thought of him right away. I mean, better than maybe what they could have, especially, come playoff time when you don't have Alvarado, but he's been a lot of up and down. He's struggled a little this year too, I think, but Washington will be out of it.
They'll be out of it, but it's another high leverage arm for, not necessarily the ninth inning, but seven, Kerkering, I don't know if violence is allowed on YouTube, but I want to strangle him.
Yeah, I mean, he's part of the he's a big problem because, you could say we could badmouth Dombrowski, but I mean, if you really truly look at the offseason, the bullpen for Dombrowski, like they were depending, and we've said it in podcasts for 2 years now. We thought Kerkering could turn into this, but so he was depending on Kerkering. So if Kerkering is what we thought, you have Strom, you have Alvarado, and you signed Romano. You thinking he's going to be what he's actually turned into now. So like they had strong arms. Now in the beginning of the season, Romano looked shaky, and Kerkering is shaky. So then we want to kill Dombrowski. He didn't really do anything to replace, but really he did. I mean, he did. You can't predict like a lot of these things, and ultimately it's Kerkering because even now, that Alvarado's out, you still have Romano pitching at high level right now. You have Strom still pitching at high level. Well, if Kerkering is pitching at high level for most games, you have a solid variation of 7, 8, 9. Now, times where they can't play because they might have played a game or whatever, fine. But Kerkering is, to Jimmy's point, not a seventh guy you can rely on right now.
No. Not at
So
all.
they may have an 8 and 9 and Strom and Romano. So that bridging from the fifth, if a pitcher only goes 5, maybe goes 6, from 6, 7 to get to 8 and 9 is where our biggest issue is. And that's where Kerkering should be stepping in. And he's not. I mean, he is just not. So to me, he's the biggest problem with the bullpen right now. But it doesn't, it just solidifies you have to go out and get somebody else. I don't know if find it either.
He's going to do something. He's going to get somebody. Now, are you going to have to give up Mick Abel? We've said in the past, if you go back and listen to our previews and everything else, like he's the, Meeker was all, he's a bust and nobody wants him, this and that, He's the guy that I know I've said that's the chip. Like, that's who you're going to look to trade. Like, you're not going to trade Adam Miller and you're not going to trade Painter. Like, those guys are not getting traded. I think Crawford could get traded. I think Abel could get traded, right? I think those are your chips. Now, do you have
Abel's a good one because, like, in all honesty, do you see Abel becoming a 1 or even a 2 in this league? Probably not, right?
Because you're going to have Wheeler signed for many years. They signed Sanchez. You got Painter. He's not going anywhere, right? So, and you got Nola. As much as, he's been awful, right?
He's not under contract, but Luzardo is young. You're going to expect to try to.
And Luzardo.
Or,
So where does
and honestly, do you even see him becoming a 1 or 2, even on a team that needs, like,
no.
He could, but realistically, probably not. He's probably going to, but he is a piece that teams will at least be like, look, we'll take a shot on a young prospect to give up a bullpen arm. I mean,
I was a little disappointed he got sent down so quickly, but considering like he pitched against Pittsburgh, who's a team that can't hit, and they didn't, right? His next start would have then been against the Athletics, who are playing well in the minor league park. So I get that, in hindsight, completely setting him back down. I think ideally, if you want to, they're not going to play the Rockies again this year. They're going to go to Pittsburgh at some point. Like, you probably want to give him another big league start to give him a little more exposure, even though he's been pitching well in the minors. But, his value may not be higher than it will be this summer.
That's the
And,
thing.
Crawford's starting to play well down there. I don't know that Crawford's unless Crawford's going to give you an outfielder that you're going to have for a while. I don't see Crawford being a move that they make right this second either. So he's maybe the most logical guy to move, because they're not going to, the Dodgers aren't going to trade you Ohtani for Painter, or else we would probably do that, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, you got to give. I mean, we want to always kill Dombrowski. You got to give him credit on that. It was a pretty, veteran savvy GM move to bring Abel up against the Pirates, where percentages he's going to pitch well to showcase him possibly for a potential trade.
If it's me, right, and you are thinking about trading him, I'm not bringing him back up. Like,
No,
let that be
Yeah.
the lasting memory
yeah,
of
that
Mick Abel, right?
I
Yeah.
agree. They took a shot and they won big. So why do anything? And it's perfect timing. It's just whether a team's ready to start trading away pieces, because it is, we're still in tail end of May, but we're still in May. What are we gonna do with Schwarber, man? And he's like,
Schwarber?
yeah, there's
You have to sign him. I mean, I know I've said that, I think Harper's going to become the DH, and you can't let this guy's getting better with age. He's 32, right? I don't know if his body's going to start breaking down, but you can't let him go. He's the best hitter.
I think it comes down to how many years he wants. Like, if he wants 3 years at a ridiculous number, I think you try to give him that. Like, if he wants 7 into age 40 or whatever, you're gonna have to pay the piper at some point. And that Harper contract and the Nola contract. I mean, you have a window of a couple years at the very least. And unless you think Crawford is the next thing since sliced bread, even so, you still have another outfield position to figure out. Castellanos only has, honestly, like, Castellanos has 1 more year after this, right? So I don't see them signing him. So it's like, you bite the bullet for a year. If you can get Schwarber on 3 years at a big number, yeah. I mean, so that's, there's no way I don't think you can let him walk away, like, based on how he's playing, because, I mean, he's getting hot already. It's not even June. And, like, his numbers against left-handed relievers are ridiculous. Like, 7 home runs, he's hitting, 3-something against left-handed relievers. Like, so it's not a matchup thing where people, we'll get the lefty in to go against him. He's beating that matchup. So what else can you ask for from him other than he can't play the field, but you're not asking him to right now?
I could be wrong, but he just reminds me of the type that I think he wants to play here. Like, I don't think he's going to be a
I would
guy
hope
to
so.
look for 5 years, $300 million somewhere. Like, I think maybe he wants 4 years. I don't know. I don't even know what.
I mean,
going
he's shown the
rates are.
propensity to
Yeah.
take a shorter term to bet on himself. Now he's 32, so how many times can you bet on yourself for the rest of your career at this point? But, I 3 or 4 years should be reasonable enough.
yeah, it's gonna be one of those. You probably got to pay him. You probably got to give him a little more.
Yeah,
left
per year.
absolutely.
Per year. Yeah, per
Yeah.
year. And
You'll
make it
get
like
hit with whatever tax, and I know that carries more than just 1 year, but, like, you'll have the Castellanos number, assuming they're not going to trade him. You'll have to maybe make concessions elsewhere.
What are
Whether
you going
that-
to do? What are you going to do with JT? That's
I mean, it could end up costing you JT. I don't know who your next catcher is, but if he wants a reasonable number, but you got to give Schwarber more,
Well, I think JT needs to. It's going to come down to him understanding that he's a defensive guy now. Like, he's a defensive catcher, so he needs to get paid in the terms of being like a Molina, like a defensive catcher, not a hitting catcher.
He needs to get paid like a 240, 15 home run catcher.
yeah,
Right,
he's
and
not
so-
hitting 275, 30.
right.
No, those days are over.
So
And I like JT, but, like, he's I don't know. I don't know.
I think he's strictly a dollars and cents. Like, if you have an idea of what he deserves like we just said, and he's either takes it or he doesn't. And if he doesn't, then you have to let him go. You can't.
Yeah,
You ain't a guy you overpay. Schwarber fine. I wouldn't argue overpaying, whatever. But JT, you can't overpay.
And I mean, when he was a free agent a couple years ago, and we didn't know if he was going to re-sign. Like, I don't think they necessarily overpaid, but like the team everybody thought was the competition was the Mets. So it's like, if you got to go a little more, A, to keep him on the team, and B, keep him away from one of your division rivals, I understand that. And I would be all for that. Next year, I mean, the Mets aren't going to do it because they have Alvarez, but if somebody would, even a rival is willing to pay a little more, if you have to have that number, like you said, you draw the line. It's like, we're not going past it.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, is JT a guy that if he went to the Mets, would that really scare you all that much? I
No,
mean,
not at this point. No,
yeah, that's
5 years ago, yes, but
The
right.
problem is, who you getting?
that's the the other thing. Yeah, sure. And the other thing with when I was saying before, the Mets, like, you just gave up. At the time, it was Sixto Sanchez and a couple other guys, none of which panned out, plus the other catcher that we had. So it's like you gave away guys that may be good, and now you can look back and say, well, they weren't. So you don't have to worry about protecting that cost at this point either.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other observations that any takeaways? Obviously they played tonight in Colorado. They're
I mean,
first team to 30 wins. What, game and a half up on the Mets, who seem to be spiraling a little bit. So that's good.
I mean, I know I've said this to friends because they've texted me and said you're right on the target with this. But Soto, when he signed a big contract, I said he might have a little pig in him after he signs a big contract.
Yeah, he came in heavy. He don't look happy. He's complaining.
And 240.
Yeah.
I mean, he just reminded me of a guy that's going to get complacent after signing a big contract, and it sure looks like it. I mean, I know Mets fans are starting to flip out on him.
Yeah, just watch Frank the Tank videos. They're always
Frank the Tank. Frank the Tank. It's our buddy. We remember we had the picture with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Braves are coming on though. Did you guys notice the Braves are like over 500 now? I think.
Are they?
They're
they've been like the afterthought for a while, but I mean, we expected it.
I think they're like 25 and 24 or something like that now.
Yeah, I think they're about 4 or 5 games out still, but yeah, obviously
24 and 24.
20. What is it? 24 and 24.
24 and 24 as we speak.
Yeah.
So probably.
So yeah, they woke up. That actually, I mean, I still think the Phillies win the division, but you probably could have got ridiculous odds on the Braves to win the division when they were 4-11 or whatever.
Well, even 0-8, wasn't it? Like their stats on
0-8,
they don't make playoffs and blah blah blah.
Yeah, you probably could have got outrageous odds on them to win.
Well, I'm seeing like Strider's not. There's concerns about Strider, and now that he's hurt, but does he have what he had before? So if he can't really give him as much as they hope, that's going to be. They can still get to the playoffs, but their ceiling is going to be limited.
Yeah.
And the problem is when you're a team like that, when you start off like they did, you lose that margin of error. I mean, you get a big guy hurt now, it hurts you. You go on a little bit of a losing streak, it hurts you. You kind of have to play perfect baseball to continue and stay pace. What about the NBA? We're down to the Final Four. Any observations there?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, most of us have been on OKC, and Denver took them to the limit, and Minnesota had them in a game for the first half last night until they turned it on. So as long as they don't wilt under the pressure, they're in the finals. And I mean, Tatum getting hurt was like the icing on the cake of the series. We weren't thinking the Knicks, Jason and I at least, have talking would give Boston the series. They did regardless. I think it's Indiana, but the way the world works, we'll probably watch the Knicks win. But yeah, I think it's Indiana, OKC, and I still think OKC is the best team. But if Indiana gets there, I don't put anything past it because they blew up Cleveland. I mean, maybe we might have overestimated Cleveland. They just weren't ready for prime time there. But I think they're Cleveland better than I thought.
Indiana's sneaky though. They're sneaky. They don't get much respect. They're a sneaky team.
Yeah, I just think it's OKC's year. I think Indiana will beat the Knicks. I just think it's OKC. I mean, they almost won 70 games. They're really good, And and they're not like this young team anymore. Like last year, they were good, but they got knocked right out and all. Like they have, they have some veteran presence now and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got don't you think they got their scare in the Denver series, got taken to 7 games and all
Yeah, I
that?
mean,
Yeah.
Denver's a tough team. I mean, you talk about a veteran team with the best player in the league, and so I don't think Minnesota's going to give them a series like Denver gave them. And then the East, right? If the Celtics were still around, I would say, they have, but yeah, whoever wins this East series, I don't think is a match for OKC.
Probably not. Celtics are going to have some problems because Tatum is going to be gone for a good chunk of next year. Brown has to have a meniscus repair, and they have to figure out how to move some contracts with the tax. So, not to say their window is closed, but this is pretty bad that they weren't able to at least get back to the finals this year.
They're in trouble.
Yeah.
They're in some trouble.
All right. Nothing else before we close this out?
Just one other thing I'll say about OKC. We've talked about how the league has changed so much, especially with the move to like using the 3-pointer as such a weapon. Whereas like, I think Dr. J was the first person to shoot and make a 3-pointer in the finals for like, they used the only one that he took the first year was available, and like how much that has changed. But when teams shoot a certain number of threes against OKC, like they always lose. Whereas like that's what you want to see them do and hit and make. But if you shoot a lot of threes against OKC, it's because they're shutting you down otherwise and they're making you lose. So that's a little bit different than I think what you see day to day against these teams in the NBA. So, it goes to show how talented they are because teams are built to shoot threes nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched a whole heck of a lot of NBA playoffs, to be quite honest. I think me and Chalky was there. We turned it on Sunday, and we watched, I think, 5 possessions, and every possession was a missed 3-pointer. That literally every possession was a missed 3. There was not one that wasn't just a 3-point shot. It was like, a microcosm of why the NBA is what it is today. So,
yeah, I mean, you guys were too young to remember 80s. The 80s NBA was so. I mean, obviously it was Celtics, Lakers, and Sixers, and nobody else. But the brand of basketball, the rivalries, and even 90s for that matter was really, you had the rivalries, you had the fights and everything else. It's just
yeah,
it's
I mean,
not,
the one thing that's good is no matter who wins the championship, you're getting a team that either hasn't won in whatever, the Knicks have been 30 years or 25 years, and then 3 other teams who've never
50.
won. It's been that long?
Yeah. So,
Order
I mean, if you extend the Thunder's lineage back to the Sonics,
They won 78 or
they won
79,
the Knicks and
79.
the Sonics won the 70s, but
Yeah.
and 2 other teams that have never won.
Yeah, but no, OKC has. I know it's the same team, but
Yeah.
different fan base, different.
I mean,
so,
Indiana,
at least you're getting to see
only
somebody
been
different.
won finals ever, and Minnesota never has.
Yeah, so it's going to be a different team. So that's one takeaway. Okay, you've listened to episode 158 of Broad Street Hustle. Have a great night.